In this video, we're going to backtrack a little bit and we're going to look at what was happening in Africa during the medieval ages. We've talked about Europe pretty extensively, but we want to look kind of globally and what was happening around the world. Let's look at these essential questions. They'll help guide what we're going to do. So, why did Ghana emerge in a region of savanna as opposed to the Sahel to the north or to the rainforest to the south? Why were Ghana and Mali both land based empires not linked in any real way with or dependent on coastlines along the Atlantic Ocean? Number 3, why was salt so significant a factor for both Ghana and Mali? Number 4, why was long distance trade so crucial to the growth of Ghana and Mali into powerful empires? 5, what was the nature of kingship in these two empires? What was the basis of wealth and power of these kings? Number 6, what role did Islam play in the formation of these empires and why was its role so important? So keep those in mind as we go through this. So the first one, we're going to kind of introduce the kingdoms. If you look at this map, this kind of introduces to you during the medieval ages the kingdoms around the world. On every continent, there's been kingdoms of enormous wealth and power. Some of these were during the medieval ages. For example, you have the Aztecs in the Americas. If you look over, you have China and Japan. In the western region of Africa, we have two kingdoms, and that's what we're going to focus on in this presentation, Ghana and Mali. So, here's where they were located. First Ghana, then Mali, the bigger empire. Ghana prospered from roughly 700 to 1070. And this is AD, and Mali succeeded Ghana as an even larger kingdom. And the Kingdom of Mali dominated the region from about 1235 until the 1490s, when its leadership was defeated in a battle by others that were looking to control the kingdom's wealth. Other kingdoms and wealthy city-states will develop in Africa during the 600-year period, including Great Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Benin, and the Swahili city-states that we're going to talk about in a little bit that are going to trade across the Indian Ocean. However, our focus right now is going to be Ghana and Mali, which are two of the greatest African kingdoms. The modern and medieval locations in Africa. A number of modern African countries exist now where these kingdoms were located. So if you look right there, you can see, and if you looked at a modern map of Africa, you could then match up what countries are located there now. So the wealth of Ghana and Mali, the wealth of these two kingdoms is going to draw attention from across the Red Sea, from more than 1,000 miles away. A famous geographer at the time, Al-Fazari, was living and writing in Baghdad, which was in Iraq, at the time of the Ghana Empire. Al-Fazari pronounced that the kingdom of Ghana was the richest kingdom on the face of the earth. Another man, Fahik, was also living far from Ghana, and he wrote in the 10th century that Ghana's gold grows in the sand like carrots do and is plucked at sunrise. So just evaluating, are these true? What parts come from their overactive imagination and which one of them are really true? Could you simply pick gold out of the ground like you would a carrot? We know that's obviously not true, but it just kind of lends you to the idea that these were enormously wealthy kingdoms. So what role did geography play as a source of the wealth and power of these kingdoms? Well, let's start with what makes a nation rich or powerful. What made both Ghana and Mali important enough for people to write about them thousands of miles away? And what made them wealthy and powerful? Before we find the answer, you can ask yourself the same question about any place today. For example, what makes the United States not just powerful, but also rich? What are some of the other medieval kingdoms that we know about? And would you be surprised to learn that geography is one of the reasons for the nation's wealth? Geography is, in fact, blesses some nations and causes great difficulties for other nations. Remember that geography helps us explain how the physical world shapes people's lives. And if you look at these pictures, we see some pictures from that region. So, location as a source of power and wealth. Let's start here. Both kingdoms were located in West Africa, roughly in the same location, as you see them superimposed upon each other on the map. Mali touched the coast of the Atlantic, but the hearts of both of the kingdoms are going to be well inland. At this time, the Atlantic was a difficult ocean to sail and navigate, and so little trade is going to go by ocean. By contrast, The interior location and the ability to travel over land are going to be two keys to the wealth and power of both Ghana and then Mali. The savanna where Ghana and Mali were located. Both kingdoms were in the savanna region or the grasslands region of West Africa. And although they included territory in the Sahel, the word Sahel is a geographic term for the semi-arid inland region of West Africa that is just south of the Sahara Desert. The Sahel is the northern edge of this savanna region. So if we look, it would be that region right there. And think of West Africa as a series of 4 east-west vegetation lands. We have coastal forest, inland savanna, the Sahel, south of the desert, and then the desert itself, the Sahara. And the differences between these zones is due to the differing amounts of rainfall in each one of them. And while some people focus on the kingdom's wealth and gold, strong kingdoms require good land. And this is important to the success of any kingdom, and the savannah had really good land. A successful kingdom also needs fresh water from rain or from rivers to grow an abundance of crops. So if we look on the map, we see how both the Senegal River and the Niger River run through this region. The Senegal River is about a little over 1,000 miles long, and the Niger River is one of the world's longest rivers, measuring it at just over 2,600 miles long. And the middle of its length, just to the east and west of where it bends, you can see a delta indicated. And like the Nile Delta, the Niger Delta and the region around it provided well-fertilized soil for bountiful harvest. With a surplus in crops, not everybody needs to farm. And again, we've talked about that reoccurring theme throughout history. So some people can specialize as iron makers, goldsmiths, scholars, soldiers, horsekeepers, pretty much anything that the civilization needs. Others are going to be servants or slaves. And the work of these specialists provides the state with powerful tools and weapons and with added income. The climate of West Africa has changed a lot since 1400, and today the region where these two kingdoms used to lie, Ghana and Mali, is dry with relatively little rain, and sand is threatening to take over parts of the ancient Malian town of Timbuktu. But during the ancient civilization of Mali, it was flourishing. So what's happened? Well, we know that the climate has changed and that in the past they had really good rainfall and that they don't have as much rainfall today. But so because of that climate change, it looks a little bit different. So we see what Timbuktu looks like today, but remember in the time that we're talking about the Malian Empire from 800 to about 1400, they had significantly more rainfall than they do today. So rainfall determines what can be grown. Farmers in both kingdoms are going to take advantage of their location by growing rice, yams, and other cereals such as sorghum and millet. And in these drier northern locations, they're going to grow crops that would grow best there, such as millet. And while those who lived right along the edge of the delta are going to grow rice and yams, people whose land had good but not heavy rain are going to grow another cereal, sorghum. And so we're going to have lively commerce and trade in crops with millet from the northern part sold for sorghum and further south for rice. And rice and sorghum are going to be sold from the southern locales north. Many of the products such as gold, copper, iron, ivory, cloth, and fine leather goods are also going to go to the market and building the economy of the kingdom and creating prosperity. And because the kingdoms could grow different kinds of foods, they're going to be stronger in farming because they're going to have more plentiful supply. But that's not all they have as wealth. People are also going to raise cattle for beef. They're also going to tend sheep and goats. And people in this region are going to be famed horsemen. The strongest horses were used in battle and to protect and enlarge the kingdom's lands. 1,000 horsemen at a time might go into battle. Picture there, the modern day depiction of that. So let's look at some discussion questions from what we just talked about. Answer these in your notes and bring the answers to class with you. If you have any questions about them, let me know. Number 1, Ghana and Mali were both inland empires. Why would it have been hard for a rich, powerful empire to rise along the nearby coast of West Africa in the years when Ghana and Mali existed? 2, Why was it more likely for powerful empires to arise in West Africa's savanna rather than in the east-west geographical bands above and below the savanna? How did the location and course of major rivers help explain why Ghana and Mali developed where they did? And the last discussion question, why are photos of the region today not reliable or helpful in understanding how ancient Ghana and Mali grew so rich and powerful?